The bank manager's face went white. Just, drained of color like someone had pulled a plug. She set down my withdrawal slip with fingers that trembled, and I knew, Lord help me, I knew, something was terribly wrong. Mrs. Hartley, she said, and her voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to deliver bad news. I'm afraid there's been some activity on your account. My chest tightened. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, too bright, making my eyes water. Or maybe that was fear. I gripped my purse strap, feeling the worn leather bite into my palm. What kind of activity? I managed, though my mouth had gone dry as cotton. She turned her computer screen toward me, slowly, like she was handling something fragile. Numbers scrolled past. Withdrawals. Large ones. All authorized, according to the screen, by me. But I hadn't. I couldn't have. $37,000, she whispered. Over the past 6 weeks. All transferred to an account belonging to. She paused, swallowed. Patricia Hartley Morrison. The room tilted. I had to grab the edge of her desk, my wedding ring clicking against the wood. Patricia. My daughter. My baby girl who used to crawl into my lap during thunderstorms. That's impossible, I heard myself say, but even as the words left my mouth, I remembered the papers she'd had me sign. For the insurance, she'd said. Just routine. It's Tuesday morning, and I'm making coffee for a ghost. 2 cups, like always. His with 3 sugars, too much, I used to fuss, but Harold would just wink and say, life's too short for bitter coffee, Dolores. Mine black, the way I've drunk it since I was 17 and trying to seem sophisticated for the boy who'd eventually become my husband. The kitchen still smells like him somehow. Old Spice and wood shavings from whatever project he'd been tinkering with in the garage. 6 months gone, and I swear I can still hear him shuffling in here in those awful terrycloth slippers, humming some Hank Williams tune off key. I catch myself setting out his pills next to his coffee cup. The heart medication. The blood pressure tablets. All those little white soldiers that couldn't save him in the end. My hand hovers over them before I remember, before I breathe, Dolores. Just breathe. The newspaper is still folded on his placemat. I can't bring myself to cancel the subscription. What would I tell them? My husband's dead, but I'm not ready for the world to know it yet. So it comes every morning, and every morning I set it right where he liked it, next to his coffee that goes cold while I pretend to read my section. Patricia says I'm not handling this well. She uses words like complicated grief and unhealthy attachment. All those therapy terms she picked up from whoever she's been seeing about her marriage troubles. As if grief could ever be simple. As if 47 years of love could be filed away neat and tidy like Harold's old tax returns. Mom, she said last week, sitting in Harold's chair, like it was nothing. You need to start thinking about the future. I was washing dishes. His coffee mug, the one with the chip on the handle from when he dropped it laughing at some fool thing on the radio. Car talk, maybe. He loved those boys. I am thinking about the future, I told her, scrubbing that chip like I could smooth it away. I mean practically, she said, and I could hear that tone creeping in. The one she uses with her teenagers when they're being difficult. This house is too big for you. And the maintenance. The house. Our house. Where Harold carried me over the threshold in 1976, both of us giggling like kids even though I was already 3 months pregnant with Patricia. Where he built that crooked shelf in the pantry because I just mentioned, that I needed somewhere for my canning jars. Where we slow danced in the kitchen to our wedding song every anniversary, even last year when his breathing was getting bad and we had to stop halfway through. I'm managing fine, I said. She made that little sound, half sigh, half laugh. Mom, Daddy handled all the finances. You don't even know how to use online banking. That stung. True, Harold did the bills. Had done since the day we married. But I wasn't some helpless child. I'd raised 2 kids, hadn't I? Worked at the library for 30 years before retiring. I could learn a computer if I needed to. But I didn't say that. Just kept washing that mug, around and around, while Patricia talked about equity and market values and downsizing. Words that felt like thieves, trying to steal what Harold and I had built. She left that day with a folder full of information. Retirement communities. Real estate agents. Financial advisors. Just look it over, she said, kissing my cheek. Her lips were cold. After she gone, I sat in Harold's chair, still warm from her, and held his coffee mug. The chip caught my thumb, sharp enough to ground me. I'm trying, Harold, I whispered to the empty kitchen. But I don't know how to do this without you. The house settled around me, old bones creaking. And for the first time since he died, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like something Patricia was already calculating in dollars and cents. It started with the mail. I'd always loved the sound of the mailbox, that little squeak and thump that meant connection to the world. Harold used to joke that I could hear the mail truck from 3 blocks away. But lately, the box seemed emptier. Bills must be getting lost, I muttered to myself, finding only flyers for grocery stores and a single sympathy card from Harold's cousin in Tucson. 6 months late, but at least she remembered. Then Patricia showed up with a stack of envelopes. "Mom, you can't just ignore these," she said, spreading them across my kitchen table like evidence. Past due notices. Final warnings. All addressed to me, but somehow redirected to her house? "I don't understand," I said, reaching for the electric bill. Harold set up that automatic. "The automatic payments stopped when Daddy died," she said, patient as a kindergarten teacher. "His account was frozen, remember? We talked about this." "Did we?" The weeks after Harold died were a blur of casseroles and careful hugs. I remembered signing things. Patricia sliding papers across this same table, her husband Robert hovering behind her with his calculator face on. "Just temporary," she'd said then. "Until we get everything sorted." But now she was pulling out more papers. Bank statements with my name on them, showing withdrawals I didn't remember making. Checks written in handwriting that might have been mine on a bad day, when the arthritis made my fingers stiff. "I haven't been writing checks," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, doubt crept in. Had I? Some mornings I couldn't remember if I'd taken my pills or not. Some nights I called Harold's name before remembering. "It's okay, Mom." Patricia patted my hand, her wedding ring, new, bigger than the last one, catching the light. "This is why Robert and I want to help. Just until you're feeling more yourself." Robert. Standing in my doorway now like he owned the place, already eyeing Harold's tools in the garage. "Market's good for selling," he'd mentioned at the funeral. At the funeral. "I can manage my own affairs," I said, pulling my hand back. Patricia exchanged one of those looks with Robert. The kind parents give each other over a difficult child's head. "Of course you can," she said. "We're just helping. That's what family does." But that night, after they left, I went looking for my checkbook. Couldn't find it anywhere. Not in the desk where Harold kept all our important papers. Not in my purse. Not in the kitchen drawer where I sometimes tucked things for safekeeping. Gone. Like it had never existed. I sat at Harold's desk, running my fingers over the wood grain he'd spent hours polishing. There was a locked drawer on the right side. Harold's private drawer, he'd called it, winking. Where he kept my birthday presents and anniversary surprises. The key was in his top drawer, under the paper clips. My hand shook as I turned it. Inside, our original will. A savings account book I didn't recognize. And a note in Harold's careful script, for Dolores. Just in case. The savings account had $40,000 in it. Money I'd never known about. Money Patricia and Robert couldn't know about, or it would already be redirected, like everything else. I closed the drawer, locked it again. Put the key not back with the paper clips, but in my sewing box, inside an old thimble. That night, I lay in our bed, too big now, too cold, and stared at the ceiling. "What were you trying to tell me, Harold?" I whispered. "What did you know?" The house creaked its answer, but I couldn't understand the language anymore. Not without him to translate. "Mom, you're getting confused again." Patricia's voice dripped patience like syrup, thick and cloying. She sat across from me at my own kitchen table, Robert flanking her like some cut-rate bodyguard in his too-tight polo shirt. "I'm not confused," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I want to know why $37,000 is missing from my account." They exchanged that look again. The one that said poor Mom, losing her marbles. "We've been over this," Robert said, pulling out his phone like it held all the answers. "Those were authorized transfers. For your care. The house repairs, what house repairs?" I interrupted. "The roof Harold fixed 2 years ago? The furnace he had serviced last winter?" "Mom." Patricia reached for my hand. I pulled back, tucked both hands in my lap like a schoolgirl. "This is for your own good. You've been forgetting things. Like when you called the police saying someone stole your car." "Someone did move my car. It was in a different spot, because Robert moved it to mow the lawn," she said gently. "Remember? You gave us keys so we could help maintain the property." I didn't remember giving them keys. But then again, there were gaps. Holes in my memory that coincided with those cups of tea Patricia always brought. Those pills that helped me rest. "And the neighbors have been worried," Robert added, scrolling through his phone. "Mrs. Patterson said she saw you outside in your nightgown at noon. Mr. Ellis found you crying in the garden, calling for Dad." Had I? The days blurred together sometimes. But I knew I'd been dressed when I went to the garden. I always dressed. Harold had liked me to look nice, even if we were just puttering around the house. "You're being selfish," Patricia said, and there it was, the knife sliding between my ribs. "Think of your grandchildren. Do you want their college funds tied up in some conservatorship battle because you're too proud to admit you need help?" The grandchildren. My heart clenched. Little Emma who loved my sugar cookies. James who still hugged me even though he was 13 and too cool for everything else. When had I last seen them? You've been keeping them from me, I said quietly. You forgot Emma's birthday, Robert said. She waited all day for your call. No, I'd called. I remembered calling. The phone ringing and ringing, Patricia's voicemail picking up. Dad would have wanted us to handle things, Patricia continued, sliding papers across the table. More documents. More signatures needed. You know he worried about you being alone. He told me. Your father told you nothing, I snapped, and for a moment, real Patricia flickered through, startled, almost afraid. Harold trusted me with everything. We were partners. Partners don't keep secret bank accounts, Robert said. The words hung in the air like a confession. They knew about Harold's hidden money. Of course they did. Patricia recovered quickly, her face smoothing back into concern. We're not judging, Mom. We understand Daddy might have been confused near the end. The medication can cause paranoia. He wasn't on medication for paranoia. The Alzheimer's medication, your father didn't have Alzheimer's. I slammed my hand on the table, making them both jump. He had a bad heart, not a bad mind. And you know it. Silence. Patricia's mask slipped again, showing something uglier underneath. Calculation. Greed. The stranger who'd replaced my daughter when I wasn't looking. Sign the papers, Mom, she said quietly. Or we'll have to proceed with the competency evaluation. Dr. Morrison says. Dr. Morrison hasn't even examined me. He doesn't need to. We have documentation. The confusion, the paranoia, the hoarding behavior. What hoarding behavior? Robert pulled out a tablet, swiped to photos. My house, but wrong. Newspapers piled in corners I kept clear. Garbage bags in rooms I never used. Dishes molding in a sink I scrubbed daily. This isn't. But my voice wavered. The photos looked real. Date. I was looking for my mother's pearl necklace. Patricia wanted to wear it to some charity function. Daddy would have wanted me to have it, she'd said on the phone, and how could I argue? Harold had loved seeing her dressed up, his face glowing with pride at school events and graduations. The pearls lived in my jewelry box, the musical one Harold gave me for our 10th anniversary. It played The Way You Look Tonight when you opened it, though the mechanism had slowed over the years, making Sinatra sound drunk and mournful. But when I opened the box, the pearls were already gone. In their place was a folded document. Legal-sized, crisp white paper that didn't belong among my grandmother's brooch and Harold's mother's ring. Power of attorney. Patricia's name. Robert's name. My signature at the bottom, shaky but unmistakable. I sank onto the bed, paper trembling in my hands. When had I signed this? The date was 2 weeks after Harold's funeral. That awful blur of days when I couldn't stop crying, when Patricia kept bringing me tea and pills. Pills. Just to help you sleep, Mom. The doctor said it's important to rest. But the pills had made everything fuzzy. Soft around the edges. I remembered signing things, Patricia's voice soothing, just routine paperwork, Mom. Nothing to worry about. Under the power of attorney was another document. A real estate listing agreement. For my house. Our house. With Patricia listed as the authorized agent. The room spun. I gripped the bedpost, Harold's wedding ring, taken to wearing it on my thumb, cutting into my palm. There was more in the jewelry box. Bank statements showing transfers. Systematic. Weekly. Always just under the amount that would trigger federal reporting. Patricia's name on every one. And then, at the very bottom, tucked under the velvet lining that I'd never had reason to lift before, an envelope. Harold's handwriting, shaky but clear, Dolores, important. My hands trembled as I opened it. My darling Dolores, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you're discovering things that will hurt your heart. I'm sorry. I should have been stronger. Should have said something sooner. Patricia's been asking about money for months. Robert's business is failing. They've been planning, my love. I heard them talking when they thought I was napping. About the house. About my life insurance. About having you declared incompetent. I've hidden money. You remember our joke about my poker fund? It's real. First National Bank, Safety Deposit Box 472. The key is in my tackle box, inside the old Altoids tin. There's also a lawyer, James Morrison, no relation to Robert, thank God. His card is in my wallet, behind my driver's license. Don't let them take what we built, Dolores. You're stronger than they think. Stronger than you know. All my love, always, Harold P.S. Trust Mrs. Ch next door. She's been watching, worrying. Good people still exist. I sat there on our bed, holding his letter, and for the first time since he died, I wasn't sad. I was furious. The front door opened downstairs. Patricia's voice, bright and false, Mom? I brought lunch. That Chinese food you like. I shoved everything back in the jewelry box, my hand steady now with purpose. The musical mechanism triggered, playing its slow, warped tune. Drunk Sinatra singing about the way I looked tonight. Coming, dear, I called, my voice sweet as poisoned honey. Let her think I was still the confused old woman who signed papers without reading them. Let her think grief had made me weak. Harold was right. I was stronger than they knew. I just had to remember how to fight.